Hello, my name is Sylvester Henderson, and as many of you know, I am the president of my company entitled Professor for Life Incorporated, and I am so honored this early afternoon to be able to interview a wonderful scholar and leader and author and business entrepreneur, Dr. Joanne Rolle, who was an Emeritus Dean, was Dean of the School of Business from Medgar Evers College, which is part of the City University of New York system, which is the community college system. So I want to welcome you, Dr. Rolle.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. I so appreciate you and this opportunity to be with you and your viewers for a small amount of time. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Dr. Rolle, can you introduce yourself to the digital media academic world? Please describe your education and training to our viewing audience.
Okay, I can say a little bit. Of course, you know, I'm Joanne Rolle. I was previously the Dean of the School of Business at Medgar Evers College, City University of New York. For 10 years, I held that position. But prior to that, I was in the academy at several different places. I could say I started in the academy, I was a Harvard administrative fellow. And at that point in time, I had been the IBM visiting professor to Hampton University. And I was in the situation of trying to decide whether I wanted to be an administrator or whether I wanted to go in the faculty line. And I started at Hampton as a chair of information systems, economics, and entrepreneurship. Those three pillars really shaped my career in the academy in administration. I went on to be after that, I went on to be an associate dean at Maryland, and then a dean at Excelsior College. And from that, I went to be a provost, a chief academic officer at South Carolina State University, and then at LIM College. And after that, I became a president right there in Fairfax, Virginia. But the role that I enjoyed the most, that I stayed in the longest, was the deanship. And that's how I got back to City University of Maryland. Now, you asked about my digital presence. I started my corporate career in IBM, so I always was connected to technology or enjoyed technology. What I did for them was I forecast MIPS. I'm an economist by training, and I got my final degree at Howard University. Whoop, whoop, Bisons. And so in LinkedIn, I'll tell you, I have over 31,000 followers, 30,000, which is the connection limit maximum that I have. And so I have been involved in working across the digital platform for quite a while. I enjoyed the digital platform. I am also on ResearchGate. It lists 24 of my publications on entrepreneurship and the future of work for underserved and economic development. I speak quite a lot. Recently, I spoke at the American University of Nigeria online, and I've been face-to-face at the UN doing several presentations for them. My latest publication has been around the future of work and entrepreneurship, both academic publications as well as non-academic publication. And the reason I went non-academic, some of these academic publications cost like hundreds and hundreds of dollars. So your work doesn't get down to, it doesn't get down to, I would say, the community level. And so that's why I actually went out. I'm affiliated as a fellow of the Center for Business and Economic Research and a fellow at the Price Babson, so that I got more of my academic training on entrepreneurship through them. As I mentioned, I don't know if I mentioned, I'm an economist by training, and I am one of one of the few African-American members of the Economic Club of New York. So I don't know if that's enough, but I did talk about my early life. I don't know if you want me to talk about that.
Yes, please share where you obtained your bachelor's, your master's, and your doctorate.
Okay, so I'm a first-generation college student. I started at the University of Miami, and that's when I saw a Black economist. I didn't know Black people could be economists, and I took that's the honest truth. Where would I see it? Where would I learn that from? His name was Dr. Price. I remember him. His wife just also came with him there. She was running the Upward Bound program, and I came up through the Upward Bound program. So I saw her as a role model in terms of, administration, but I saw him in the academy. So they were the first Black academic couple that I ever knew. He actually wrote the recommendations for me to go to graduate school at Southern Illinois. I first got a bachelor's of business administration from the University of Miami. I have very few. He was actually the first Black faculty member that they hired in the business school. So he was the first and the only, as long as I was there. And they've done a little bit better, but not much. So I went on to, oh gosh, I went to Southern Illinois because they had a new urban studies program that I thought I wanted to get into, but I found that I enjoyed the economics more than the urban studies. And so I switched to their economics program and got a master's of science. I was recruited out of that program because of my GMAT score in economics. I was recruited to Howard University. I had a few others that I could have gone to, but as I mentioned, I'm a first generation college student. The only school that my parents had heard of was Howard. And they literally drove me to Howard and said, this is where you will go. And honestly, I believe much of what I've done in my achievements is because of that Howard Foundation. I can't tell you some of the name of the faculties in my first two institutions, but I can name every single faculty member that taught me and trained me at Howard. And they were tough. I mean, I went through my undergraduate was 3 years. My master's only took me a year. And when I got to Howard, I thought I was going to run through, but they stopped me. I mean, they stopped me. My labor economic professor, his name was Joseph Houches. And they were so hard. And I told him, I said, I've been to a lot of other schools and graduate schools, and they don't work us like this. Why are you trying to make us read so much? And he looked at me with the love of a father in his eyes. And he said, you may have to rewrite the books because the books weren't written for us. And if you're going to have to rewrite the books, you should know what's in the books. And that's why we are so hard on you. And I was like, oh my gosh. It took me a long time to get out of Howard, and it wasn't the coursework. I'll tell you about that. It was the research. It was like those old guys didn't believe that I was ready, and they said they wasn't going to let me go till I was ready. And so they literally, I was running an art gallery business. I love the arts. I'll tell you a little bit more about that now because some of my artwork is now being shown at Art Basel on Friday. I'm headed to Switzerland to go there. So since I retired, I got the art back into my life.
Okay, good for you.
But I quit my full-time government job. I was working for the federal government there. I closed my art gallery. We had been running for 5 years, and I just focused on that dissertation because it was evident they was not going to let me go. And my Joseph Hodgson, he came to me and he said, they don't believe you could run a full-time business, you could work full-time and get their degree. So I dropped all of that because so many people had invested. My parents had invested. My family had invested. By that time, I had a daughter, the daughter that I was just telling you about. And it was like, we got to do this. So whatever it takes, whatever they want, that's what we're going to do. And one of my faculty members made sure I had funding for the dissertation. I had a Ford Foundation fellowship in the beginning, and then they threw on other fellowships so that I could focus and finish, and that's what I did. So I am here where I am because of Howard. And so when it was time to make some career decisions, and in my early career, I said to myself, I got to get my return on investment, because honestly, it took me 10 years to get out of Howard. I need to get my return on my investment. So I went to work for IBM, and I thought that was the path. But I will tell you, where energy meets passion, eventually the money will come. When I went to Hampton University, they made me the IBM visiting professor for a year at Hampton University. When the guy took me, he said, I am taking you home. And it felt like home. It felt so nice. I didn't have to dress like anybody else. I didn't have to do what everybody else did. I just had to be me. And being me allowed me to do some of my best work. And so I stayed at Hampton for about 6 years, but I'll tell you, at our HBCUs, we are so under-resourced. I was doing the work of 3 people, and my doctor is the one that told me this. He said, surely you could be an academic somewhere else. Because my health was failing. And when I left, honestly, Professor, they hired 3 people to do my job. And what I told them is, if they had given me the 3 lines while I was there, I would have never left. If they had given me the help while I was there, I would have never left. And Hampton really is one of the schools that I could say I had some of the best students, some of the best faculty. Now, not that any of the others weren't, but I am blessed to have started my academic journey at Hampton. And it allowed me, even though I've been to a lot of other places, I've worked with diverse faculty and diverse students, but the fact that I was able to start at Hampton, I think, is one of the reasons why I was able to continue in the academy and deal with some of the resource issues. Like I shared with you, I was at South Carolina State University, I was at Medgar Evers College, and with some severe resource challenges. But because I started at Hampton and was able to be or see what creativity could do in terms of helping and supporting both faculty, staff, and students, it really helped me to move on. So I'm going to stop now here so you can ask some more of your questions.
You know, you have such a lovely personality. I was very excited about doing this personality. I could see why you've had such an invigorating career. Please describe your work and obligations as the past dean of Medgar Evers College for the School of Business. What are some of the tasks for our future administrators? What are some of the things that programs you were responsible for, and what were some of your daily obligations?
Well, okay, so let me say this. Whenever a new administrator is hired at a HBCU or a PBI, predominantly Black institution, and that's what Medgar is categorized as, they never tell you everything. If they did, it would be hard. Oh my gosh. When I got there, I was like, number one, there was an internal candidate who, and you find that sometimes there are internal candidates and they do want someone from the outside, but it makes it harder because there is a whole cadre of support for the internal candidate. So what you have to do is figure out, how am I going to find my core faculty and staff to do what we have to do, and how for the students, because we're there for the students. We're not there for anything else but to make sure that we develop a new set of leaders within our charge. And so, and everything else is done so we can do that. And so what I did was I worked with the faculty who was there, who was willing to work. And in every institution, you will have a core group who are there and willing to work, and you'll have a group that maybe is not as willing for whatever reasons. And then I worked with leaders in the external group, the community and the business leaders. And then I was able to hire a few folks to build on that foundation. And because of that, we were able to get several initiatives launched and executed for the students, for the faculty. We, you heard a lot in my entrepreneurship background, but it's entrepreneurship and experiential learning. Because what I found throughout my career is students learn by doing. It's not just a theory. They don't really get excited about this theory, but they get excited when you talk about the applications and when you bring access and resources for them. I raised a lot of money in my first couple of years while I was there because the money just wasn't there. And I mean, and it's not just money. I brought in a lot of partners because I had been around a while. And so I had contacts where I could bring the partners in. And so I developed centers that would deliver resources to the students and the faculty. My students were able to go to about maybe 12 or 13 countries outside of the US. Some of these students had never been outside of Brooklyn. Some of them had never been outside of New York. I mean, going to Manhattan was like going to a foreign country to a few of the students.
Wow.
Most of my students were, Brooklyn, you will find the largest base of Caribbeans anywhere in this country. Anywhere outside of the Caribbean, they're in Brooklyn. It's the largest group of, so most of my students were Caribbean. They were either first or second generation. And so we took them to places like China, Japan. I'll tell you a story. One of my students, I had 3 young men, and they really were doing well on a venture. And like I said, I had this funding, and I had this contact in Canada, and he said, I do only MBA students, but if you have 3 good students, and MBA, for those who didn't know, is the Master's of Business Administration graduate program. If you have some good students and you could afford to, you can send them with my students, and we are going to China. This one young man, it was 3 of them. They were all in this business together, and they were childhood friends. So it wasn't that they were just in the business together. They had grown up together. This one young man, his father had just died. His mother and his support system said, we want you to go to China with your friends because that's what your father would want. So I'm telling you, the support was so ingrained. The community was so together that he missed his father's funeral to go to China with his colleagues. Yes. And had the blessings of his mother. In fact, the insistence of his mother. So I had a cohort of students that I was working with. Another story is a young woman. She had graduated from Brooklyn College, which is from another one of the CUNY colleges, City University of New York colleges. And she was going to med school. She had gotten a science degree, and she saw that we were working with students on entrepreneurship. And she came and she asked if she could work with us. And we said, yes, you just have to do some of the boot camp stuff that we do, etc. So this young woman, I'd say over the course of 2 years, we were working with her. She competed in competitions, and as did many of the students. Part of what was required if they went to all these countries was they had to compete in competitions. They had a business plan. They had to run a business. So the first time we went to competition in the state, she was with our students, and they did not win. I would tell you this about Caribbeans, and I will tell you this about Brooklyn. They don't like to lose. I mean, that they don't take it. So we kept competing. And in one of the competitions, no woman had ever won. Ever. It was the CUNY Smart Pitch competition. But she wasn't a business student, but she went after coaching and training. She went up there and she was the first woman to ever win in the CUNY Smart Pitch competition. And so I'm just telling you the driver and the persistence and the grit of some of the students. Now, this young woman, she was in one of the CUNY programs and they didn't see her for a while and they kicked her out. They didn't know. And I told them, we don't have the privilege with our students to kick anybody out. You don't know the shoes that these students walk in. The reason that she had a problem was at that point in time, she was homeless. So you're talking about someone who was homeless and you're kicking them out of your program because they didn't meet certain metrics. And I told them, I said, I don't have that luxury. These are our babies. We have to train them. And so, yes, she became a winner of a program and she had been dismissed from CUNY. So that's just one of the stories. But yes, as the dean of a business school, we have to raise money. I raised over $1 million for these programs for these babies. And my administration thought I couldn't spend the money. I had 18 months. And in 18 months, all the money was gone and it went mostly to the
Wow. How did you ensure that your instructional programs were inclusive and accessible to all students, especially including your underrepresented and non-traditional students?
Well, that was easy. All my students were underrepresented and not. So this is what I did to make sure. I didn't look at GPA. A lot of people look at GPAs, but as we know, it's inflated. And some of the GPAs don't mean much because, you know, a lot of the students are just going through, and that's everywhere. The way we held our trials was they had to go through a boot camp. The boot camp was a week. I paid a consultant specialist to come in, and they didn't have to be business majors. They could have been majors from anywhere in the college. So they could have been a music major. They could have been an art major, but they had to be able to talk the language of business at the end of that week. If I couldn't talk to them and they didn't know about profit or what profit was, a revenue stream, well, it was going to be very hard to do the kinds of things we had to do. So for me, the inclusiveness was you have to want this bad enough that at the end of our 1 week program, you have met the metrics of that program. All of the students that came through, we had some who literally had never talked the business terminology. This one student that I told you about who won, she was a science major. She had never taken any business courses. But at the end of that week, I will tell you, if you heard her, you would have thought that she was an MBA student. So the metrics that I looked at, and that's why experiential learning is so important, is that you can do and that you choose to do. Not that you just can do, but you also choose to do. And that's how we sifted out. But most of my students were Pell Grant students. Many of my students, in fact, I can't think of a single one who was just a traditional student who came straight from high school. Most of them had worked somewhere else, or most of them had some major challenges, and they overcame them to be a part of some of the programs that we led.
Wow. In what ways did you collaborate with your faculty and classified professionals to create a holistic student experience?
Okay, so honestly, there was nothing that I could have done alone. In order to leverage and leapfrog, we had to have lots of partners. I was partners with some of the banks. And what I would do is I would bring my faculty in front of my partners, and they would talk about the programs that they wanted to lead and that they wanted to develop. And then the partners would decide who they would fund or how they would fund them. And that was a way of getting my faculty more involved and getting my partners involved. So it wasn't like I went forward and said, this is all I want you to do. I let them vet what they wanted to do, the faculty, and I let the partners decide what they wanted to fund. And then that way I got several, I had one program funded for 3 years. I would just tell you, Bank United, they heard several of my faculty, it was 3 or 4 that had brought proposals before them. They chose one faculty member. They liked what he was trying to do, both with the students and the community. And they funded scholarships. They funded, full tuition scholarships. They funded a summer program, and they also funded something else. They did. So that's the way we did it. There is no way any one person can do it by themselves. I had to bring in, and it's not just any faculty, because not all faculty are able to work with all partners. So different faculty were selected for different partners, and that's how we made it work.
Wow. Can you explain how did you utilize technology and innovation within the School of Business?
Okay, so we had COVID hit us, and we were basically a face-to-face school. We had very few online courses. We had very few faculty able to teach online. And so when it first came, I knew we couldn't do it by ourselves. I called in, and I have support from places where that's all they did was online. So we did a conference right at the beginning of COVID to talk about what was best practices in technology and development of curriculum and pedagogy for online. We did that for a whole day and a half in the beginning. And then we had faculty members who had more expertise in the technology than others. We have a computer information systems department where the chair and the co-chair did workshops and supported and also helped support the rest of the faculty. And we had some faculty who could mentor other faculties. So in the beginning, faculty who weren't tech savvy, because we didn't have any other options, we couldn't go on campus, they got supported, not just from the college in general, but from their own faculty. And some of my faculty were teaching at other CUNY institutions already where they only did online, and they were able to help support the faculty at Medgar who hadn't done it. So, I think technology was easier for some than others. I don't want to make this sound like we still have some faculty who struggle with technology, but the bulk of the faculty, at least in delivering online curriculum and pedagogy and services, we have many more now in 2025 than we had in 2020 when we first had the crisis. We have some faculty who are expert. My CIS chair is an expert in cybersecurity, and the co-chair is an emerging expert in AI. But, they were formally trained. Actually, the dissertation, I believe, of my CIS chair was in cybersecurity way back when. So we had some depth on the bench, but by and large, most of the faculty had to come along.
Wow. You know what? I want to just sort of add to that, because in the year 2020, when COVID started, I knew nothing about technology. But you know what? I had a world acclaimed performing art program, and I was determined to keep it going. Now I ended up becoming like this technology expert. I put together all type of concepts and learned how to teach choir and music and piano and theory and music appreciation and music history all online. And I got to the point I absolutely adored it, because I told someone I had to get another master's degree or doctorate degree in technology. I spent, mega hours. I remember the first concert I put online, I literally spent over 200 hours trying to put together this venture, because I did not know what in the world I was doing. But I knew that if I kept doing it, I would figure it out. I would call different friends. One person may give me one tidbit, another person give me one, and then I figured out, wait a minute, this is much easier than I thought. And I was all of my life, because I was a choir teacher, choir professor, I looked at this stuff as like, oh, I don't need, when they would talk about Canvas, I never worked on Canvas. So I never worried about it. And then I was all of a sudden, compelled to learn all this information. So I believe that the Academy of Instruction has improved now because of technology. I believe that COVID made academics smarter and more, and they developed greater tools. So even though COVID itself was a human experience that created a lot of human challenges, from a professional standpoint within higher education, it was also an experience that compelled professionals to gain more knowledge. So for those of you who were the administrators and leaders, we applaud you. Let me ask you, you know what? Go ahead, yes.
I can give you a personal experience of how the intersection of technology and education and entrepreneurship impacted me. I do a lot of keynote speeches, and my last one was in April to the International Economic and Development Forum. It was the last one I was supposed to do. My subject was entrepreneurial leadership and co-intelligence. And I couldn't find any of, and I've been doing a lot of work with photography as well as computer generated images, but I had just started putting it in my work. So I developed a couple of slides that were computer generated images, and there was a call for artwork, and I looked at it and I said, well, these might pass. And I had been doing it all along, but I never put it forward. Do you know, I put forward those two pieces. It was accepted at the Art Basel a conference for the Future of Work conference, and I'm headed to Switzerland on Friday to show my work there as AI art. I mean, I was working in it, but there's no way. I told you I was a gallery owner before, but I in no way considered myself an artiste. But the technology helped the creativity process. So, and I was doing this stuff for fun. It wasn't like I was doing it for money. And they are actually representing my work. I did sell a piece last year, but this is the first time my work is being shown in a gallery format for AI art, digital art. Can you believe it?
Wow, that is wonderful. Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Congratulations to you. You are a professional of many hats and many great surprises. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Tell me, as a noted author and business owner, please speak about these ventures, because you're an author, a business owner, an academic, an economist, and all these you're more things than I can even say.
Well, let me tell you first about the books, because none of it was just doing it for the sake of doing it. In the future of work and entrepreneurship, there were always many voices, but they were voices from the top down, a lot of heavy hidden consultants, a lot of folks who are just telling us what the future is going to be for people that look like us. What I wanted to do, and my colleagues in Kenya wanted to do, was we wanted to do it from the bottom up. We wanted to talk about the future of work and entrepreneurship from the perspective of those on the ground, the academy on the ground. So I had some colleagues at Kenyatta University. Actually, it was two of them. We were the lead editors on the first volume, The Future of Work and Entrepreneurship for the Underserved. And we had such a call out of folks that wanted to help us with this work. So it helped us to produce, because we were the senior editors, and we couldn't do all of the scholars that in the first volume. So there was a second volume, there was a third volume, and my colleague, Professor Crump, Professor Micah Crump, he actually did his Ph.D. at Morgan State University on Black entrepreneurship. And so he was the senior editor with me for the second two volumes. And so that work was available. But honestly, like I said, is the reference guides for libraries. And I mean, I think at $300 a pop or something, it's not going to get in the hands of the everyday person. So before I left the academy, I wanted to produce, actually last year, 2024, a book on technology related tech-enabled futures, elevating education in underserved areas. And that book was launched with the conference in economic development last year. And, it's available on Amazon. The community leaders can get it. The entrepreneurs can get it. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to put it in the hands of those who can help. It's almost like missionary advocacy work. We are going to get left behind if we don't have access to the technology. And it's not just AI, it's AI and emerging technologies as it shifts. So that was the goal, to have more voices who in this space, who are in these countries all over the world. It's not just our country, but it's underserved markets like ours is in our community. And that was the goal, and that continues to be the goal.
Dr. Rolle, you have been such a wonderful person to interview. Your personality is just so beautiful, and it is so bubbly, and it's so exciting. I don't care what you do, it's always going to be successful because it's coupled with an ingratiating personality. So I wanted to say that to you because you just possess so much energy and enthusiasm. It's just a joy to listen to you talk. I have just two other questions for you. Really,
Okay.
one, please share the community work you've accomplished for the improvement of protected classes with respect to the current equity versus equality movement. Because there's a big thing in education, higher education now, whether institutions should focus on equitized work or equalized work. So could you talk about that a little bit for us?
Yes, of course. And thank you for the question. As I mentioned before, there's nothing that we have done, especially during my time at Medgar, that we have not involved partners. My major partner in economic development and community outreach was the Central Brooklyn Economic Development Corporation. With them, and we worked with them for the last 8 years. Shout out to the executive director, LaShawn Allen Muhammad. We have developed programs that are from the beginning to the end, so that we start in the high schools and elementary schools with her center, teaching entrepreneurship and economic development. I have had interns and senior level students to actually go and teach and help and support. We had an office. Our Medgar Evers had an actual office, Medgar Evers Entrepreneurship and Experiential Learning, the lab, in her facility, so that we had it staffed, and we were actually like one. And to be quite candid, when we didn't have support staff, she had her staff to come to Medgar and help support us, so that we could do the work that we continue to do. We developed joint programs. One program I told you was about the high school and middle school people, but also on the other end, we had a master's program with, not LIM, but LIU, Long Island University, where the students were finished at our program and they would go straight into their master's program. They didn't have to do some of those examinations. And we literally put through 100 students that would have, and the reason this is important, our students are test adverse. I'll just be honest, exam adverse. And so many of them just wouldn't even try. Having that program, our students went seamlessly. Some of the other requirements were waived because they knew the foundation, and we put through over 100 students in that program, and she also helped. Now, let me also tell you, our summer program was funded by a bank, but LaShawn's Economic Development Group, they came in, they worked with the community to try to develop businesses from the community who only had GEDs, not even had undergraduate degrees, and they came straight from the community. So we worked to develop, because our students come from the community. So we work with the Community Development Association people, and there are more. There are many. The Caribbean Community Development Organization. We work with them as well. And so it was seamless. Like, we knew we couldn't do it by ourselves. We knew the academics alone wasn't enough. And we continued to work with community leaders and community organizations as one to develop a better outcome for not just our students, but for the community at large.
Wonderful. It was a very great partnership. Would you like to share any final thoughts or ideas with our digital audience that you would like to communicate?
I would just like to say, I just this past weekend received the highest honor from the HBCU Business Dean's Roundtable, and the work there is really great. So I would like to say, working with HBCUs and PBIs is because still, if you look at where our doctors come out of and where our lawyers come out of and our professionals, many of them are incubated in the HBCUs. And why is that important? A lot of times, first generation college students, and I can tell you, I'm a first generation college student. I went to 2 institutions before I landed in HBCU, but it was the HBCU Howard that helped me become the professional that I am, because they let me know that it wasn't just about me, but about all the other leaders that need to be groomed and developed, and how that work was important, and then how we needed to do it. So if I want to do a shout out, is if there's any way you could help or support a HBCU or a PBI, do it. Your time and your dollars are leveraged to go so much further, because the work that we do there is really the work that help us increase the number of underserved professionals that are created.
I would like to ask the CEO of this podcast, thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule. I'm only disappointed about one thing. I didn't get my plane ticket with you to go to Switzerland. Next time you go to Switzerland, you call Professor Henderson, and he's going to be sitting right next to you having fun looking at the art gallery. But thank you so very much, Dr. Joanne Rolle, for taking the time out of your schedule. As said earlier, you're a delightful professional. You've accomplished so much in your life. You've done so much for so many thousands of people. And I am so honored and proud that even as you have closed one chapter, you are continuing to spread all the knowledge and love that you have learned, and you're going to be doing this until the great deity gives you eternal rest. So thank you once again for all that you've done for everyone in the institution of higher education, in business, in innovation, and communication, just around. You really are an academic and professional icon. I hope to be talking to you soon, because I'm going to be like the IRS. We've developed a relationship now. I'm not going to let you go.
All right. Thank you.
You're so welcome. God bless you, and we'll be talking soon.
God bless you too, Professor Henderson. God bless you, and keep you strong so you can do more of this work.
That shall. Thank you very much. Have a positive day.
All right. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye now.